My wife has been telling her family I'm emotionally abusive because I asked her to stop maxing out our credit cards. Then they ambushed me with an intervention. So I did this with my house, and they all went silent. I, male, 37, just found out my wife, female, 35, has secretly racked up over $40K in credit card debt. Now she's staying at her sister's, and her family is calling me financially abusive. Throwaway, because my wife browses Reddit, and obviously I don't want her to see this. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. Sorry in advance for the novel this is gonna be. I'm still kind of in shock and trying to process everything, so this might be all over the place. So my wife Karen and I have been married for 8 years, together for 11 total. We've always been pretty solid, or at least I thought we were. We don't have kids, we're on the fence about it still, and generally have a good life. I work as a software developer at a mid-sized tech company, not making crazy Silicon Valley money or anything, but enough that we live pretty comfortably, especially since we don't have a mortgage because we live in the house I inherited from my grandparents before we got married. Karen used to work full-time in marketing, but about 3 years ago, she decided to switch to freelance interior design work. I was totally supportive of this because she seemed really excited about it, and I figured we could handle a temporary income drop while she built up her business. The thing is, it hasn't really taken off yet. She gets clients here and there, but honestly, it's not bringing in much money. I never made this an issue because I thought we were doing fine financially. So here's where everything blew up. Last week, I was getting stuff together for our tax appointment, and I needed to find some documents in Karen's desk drawer. And that's when I found all these credit card statements. Guys, we're talking over $42,000 in debt spread across like 6 different cards. I felt really sick. Like, how the hell did this happen without me knowing? I thought we were on the same page financially. We have no mortgage, decent combined income, or so I thought, and we don't even have expensive hobbies or anything. I mean, I buy video games sometimes, and Karen likes shopping, but nothing I thought was excessive. Boy, was I fucking wrong, I guess. So after I found the statements, I waited till she got home and basically sat her down with all the statements spread out on the kitchen table. I tried to stay calm, but I was honestly freaking out inside. When I confronted Karen about the statements, she didn't seem very worried. She told me everyone has some debt, including all our friends. When I pointed out that the minimum payments alone were over $1,500 a month, she got defensive. She said she needed to look professional for her clients and that appearances were important in her industry. I asked why she never mentioned the debt piling up, and she started crying, saying she was afraid of disappointing me. I told her I just wanted honesty and that we could figure it out together. I suggested making a budget, and she agreed, but quickly changed the subject to her mom's birthday. Looking back, I should have seen this as a red flag, but I didn't. For a few weeks after that convo, things seemed better. Karen said she was cutting back on spending, and I believed her. I was like, okay, maybe this was just a wake-up call, and we can get back on track. Honestly, I've always been completely open about our finances, so this whole secret debt thing really blindsided me. Though I guess I never told her exactly how much I have in my retirement accounts, but that's different, and it never came up anyway. Then last week, I found out she opened 2 more credit cards that weren't even included in the $42 total. I was furious, not just about the money, but about the lying. I confronted her again, and this time I was a lot less calm. I suggested that maybe we needed to separate our finances if she couldn't control her spending. I even said maybe she needed to see a financial counselor. You guys, she completely flipped out. She started crying and saying I didn't support her business, that I was trying to control her financially, and that I was trying to keep her dependent on me. I was honestly shocked. Where was this coming from? I've literally never controlled her spending before. Hell, I didn't even know about most of it apparently. This was 3 days ago. She packed a bag and said she needed space and went to stay with her sister Kathy. Now I'm getting these angry texts from her family members saying I'm financially abusive. Her mom called me and said I should be ashamed of myself for how I treat Karen. I'm completely lost. I've tried calling Karen multiple times, but she barely answers, and when she does, she just says she needs more time to think. I don't even understand what there is to think about. We have a serious financial problem that we need to address together as a couple. I'm starting to wonder if Karen has been telling her family some twisted version of our marriage for a long time. The things they're accusing me of make no sense based on our actual relationship. I've never been controlling with money. If anything, I've been too hands-off. Has anyone dealt with something like this before? Am I missing something here? I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone, where somehow I'm the bad guy for being upset about 40K plus of hidden debt. Edit. Wow, this kind of blew up. Thanks for all the responses. To answer some common questions. Edit 2. A lot of people are asking if there were signs of overspending. 5. I missed. Looking back, yeah, she does buy nice clothes and stuff for her business image, but I never thought it was that much. She always said she got good deals, or that things were investments in her career. I believed her, because why wouldn't I? Edit 3. Someone asked about joint accounts. We have one joint checking account where my paycheck goes and where we pay bills from. Karen has her own separate accounts too for her business, which I don't have access to, which I was fine with because I trusted her. I guess that's where all this debt was hiding. Edit 4. For those suggesting marriage counseling, I'm totally open to it if she would just come home and talk to me. I don't understand how we're supposed to fix anything with her at her sister's house and her family treating me like I'm some kind of monster. Edit 5. To the person who asked if I've checked my credit, holy shit, I didn't even think of that. Doing that right now. Now for the first update. First of all, thanks to everyone who commented on my last post. I read every single comment, even though I couldn't respond to all of them. There were way more than I expected. A lot of you were asking for an update, so here goes. And yeah, things have definitely gotten worse, not better. So after 5 days of Karen staying at her sister's place and basically ignoring most of my calls and texts, she finally called me on Tuesday night saying she wanted to come home to talk things through. I was honestly relieved because the silent treatment was driving me crazy, and I just wanted to figure out a plan to deal with all this debt together, like actual adults. I told her I'd make dinner and we could sit down and have a calm conversation. I was still upset about the hidden debt, but thought maybe we could move forward if she was finally ready to be honest. During those 5 days alone, I basically went into cleaning mode. I do this when I'm stressed. I deep cleaned the entire house, organized our closets, and started tackling the home office, which had become this dumping ground for papers and random stuff. That's when I found even more evidence of Karen's spending that I hadn't known about. Like, there was a receipt for a $1,400 designer purse stuffed in her desk drawer from just 2 months ago. And get this, I found shopping bags shoved in the back of the guest room closet with clothes that still had tags on them. I'm talking expensive stuff too, not like Target or whatever. I was pretty upset finding this stuff, but I still wanted to work things out. I mean, we've been together 11 years. That means something, right? So when she said she was coming home, I actually made her favorite dinner, this pasta dish with sun-dried tomatoes that she loves, as kind of a peace offering. I figured I would be firm about the spending, but also, understanding if she was willing to admit she had a problem and work on a plan. What actually happened was, well, I'm still processing it, honestly. Karen didn't come alone. She showed up with her entire family, her parents, Robert and Diane, and her sister, Kathy. They all walked in with these super serious expressions, and I was just standing there like an idiot with a welcome home smile frozen on my face. I was confused, but tried to be nice, offering to set more places for dinner. Robert immediately told me to sit down because they needed to talk to me. His tone was not friendly, at all. I offered everyone drinks, because what the frick else do you do when your in-laws randomly show up? But they all declined. Then Diane announced they were there because they were concerned about Karen's well-being. At this point, I was still confused, but thought maybe they were worried about our financial situation or something. Then Kathy pulled out a fucking notebook, like she had actually written stuff down. She said she'd been documenting my abusive behaviors, and I felt like I was in another reality. Karen just sat there looking tearful and nodding occasionally, while her dad started accusing me of being financially controlling and emotionally manipulative. Every time I tried to explain about the credit cards, Diane would interrupt me saying that financial control is the first sign of abuse, and that isolation from family is typical abuser behavior. I have never isolated Karen from her family. They come over all the time, or at least they used to before this. Kathy kept reading from her notes. describing incidents that either didn't happen or were so wildly exaggerated I barely recognized them. She claimed I screamed at Karen for buying work clothes and that I monitor her spending down to the penny. None of this ever happened, obviously, or I would have known about the secret credit cards. At one point, Robert suggested I should leave their house for a while so Karen could feel safe. I asked what he meant by their house, and that's when Karen mumbled that she had told them we owned the house together. For those who don't remember from my last post, this house was inherited from my grandparents before we got married. It's solely in my name. Karen knows this perfectly well. We've never had a mortgage because of this inheritance. I just sat there in shock while they continued this, I don't even know what to call it, ambush. Intervention. Karen had apparently been telling her family for years that I control all our money, that I give her an allowance, what the frick, that I criticize her appearance and belittle her business. None of this is true. I'm not saying I'm perfect. We argue sometimes like any couple, but this picture she painted of me to her family, I don't even recognize that person. Karen comes from money, like serious money. Her parents paid for everything growing up: private school, college, fancy cars, designer clothes, the works. They still live in this massive house in an exclusive neighborhood and basically buy whatever they want, whenever they want. When we got married, Robert offered to buy us a house as a wedding present, but I declined because I already had my grandparents' house, which I love, and I wasn't comfortable accepting something that expensive from them. I think that decision created some resentment that's never really gone away. Karen has made comments over the years about how her friends' husbands bought them bigger houses, or how her sister's husband lets Kathy redecorate every year. Kathy doesn't work, by the way. Her husband makes bank and they have no kids, so she basically shops and does charity lunches all day. The intervention ended with Robert delivering an ultimatum. Either I agree to therapy for my controlling behavior and add Karen's name to the house deed as a show of good faith, or they would support Karen in leaving me and seeking a divorce where she would get what she deserves. I was so blindsided by all this that I just asked for time to think, which they reluctantly agreed to. They're coming back this weekend to continue the discussion. After they left, with Karen, she went back to her parents' house. I just sat on the couch for like 2 hours trying to process what the hell just happened. Part of me is wondering if maybe I was controlling in ways I didn't realize. But then I remember that she's the one who hid $40,000 less of debt from me, not the other way around. I called my friend Billy yesterday, he's an attorney, to ask about protecting my assets, especially the house. I also made an appointment with a therapist named Dr. Charlene for tomorrow. Not because I think I'm abusive, but because I need an objective person to talk to about all this. Karen has been texting me these really confusing messages. One minute, she's apologetic, saying she didn't mean for things to go this far, and the next, she's reinforcing her family's narrative by saying she just needs me to acknowledge how my behavior has affected her. I don't even know what to think anymore. I feel like I'm losing my mind. How did discovering my wife's secret debt turn into me being the bad guy? Edit. To answer the most common question, yes, I have a copy of the deed, and yes, it's only in my name. The house was left to me in my grandfather's will before Karen and I even met. Edit 2. Several people have asked if Karen has shown signs of spending issues before. Looking back, yeah, there have been red flags I ignored, like the time on our honeymoon when she spent $900 on souvenirs in one day. I just chalked it up to vacation excitement, but maybe that was the start of a pattern. Edit 3. For those suggesting I might actually be financially abusive without realizing it, I've literally never controlled Karen's spending. She has her own accounts, her own credit cards, obviously lol, and I've always been supportive of her business even though it doesn't make much money. The idea that I'm giving her an allowance is completely made up. Edit 4. A lot of you are asking why I'm even considering staying with Karen after this. I honestly don't know. 11 years together is a long time to just throw away. But yeah, the trust is definitely broken right now. Edit 5. Someone asked about prenups. We don't have one. I didn't think we needed one since neither of us had significant assets when we got married, besides the house, which I thought was protected as premarital property. According to Billy, my attorney friend, the house should still be solely mine in a divorce, but Karen could potentially claim some portion of its increased value since we've been married. That's why her dad is pushing so hard for me to add her to the deed. Edit 6. To the person who asked if I think her family put her up to this, I don't know, honestly. Karen can be easily influenced by her family, especially her sister. But the fact that she's been apparently telling them these lies about me for years is what's really messing with my head. Now for the second update. It's been about a week since my last post where I described the crazy intervention Karen's family staged, where they basically accused me of being financially abusive. So much has happened since then that I don't even know where to start. Honestly, my head is still spinning from everything, and I'm exhausted both mentally and physically. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. I read pretty much all the comments, even if I couldn't respond to everything. A lot of you gave really solid advice that helped me prepare for what turned into a complete mess, but maybe in a good way. I don't even know anymore. So after that ambush intervention, I spent the week basically preparing for the follow-up meeting that her dad Robert had demanded. I talked to my friend Billy, who gave me some really good advice about protecting my assets, especially the house. He basically confirmed what many of you said. Since I inherited the house before we got married, and it's only in my name, it should be considered separate property. But he also warned me that Karen could still try to claim some portion of its increased value since we've been married. I also met with that therapist I mentioned, Dr. Charlene, twice this week. She was actually super helpful and gave me some perspective I hadn't considered. She said that while nothing in my story suggested actual financial abuse, there might have been communication issues in our marriage that contributed to where we are now. Like, maybe Karen felt she couldn't talk to me about money stuff for some reason. I don't know. I've always thought I was pretty approachable, but maybe I wasn't. Dr. Charlene also helped me see how different our upbringings were regarding money. I grew up solidly middle class, with parents who taught me to save, avoid debt, and only buy what you can afford. Like getting a new video game was a huge deal when I was a kid and required saving up my allowance for months. Karen grew up with parents who basically bought whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. Her dad would literally hand her his credit card in high school and tell her to get whatever you need for a school dance or whatever. No budget, no limits. This made me think back to our honeymoon when Karen spent like $900 on souvenirs in a single day. I remember being shocked, but I just chalked it up to vacation excitement and didn't want to seem controlling or whatever. But looking back, that was probably a sign of how differently we view spending money. And there were definitely other signs over the years that I just ignored. Like when she'd buy expensive clothes and say they were investments for her business image. I believed her because why wouldn't I? Anyway, I spent the week gathering documents, all the credit card statements I'd found, property records for the house showing it was inherited before our marriage, bank statements showing my income going into our joint account to disprove the allowance bullshit, etc. I even started recording our conversations with Karen's knowledge. I wasn't being sneaky about it after the intervention because I was worried about being accused of saying things I didn't actually say. Part of me felt gross about being so defensive and preparing like I was going to court or something. I mean, this is my wife and her family. We're supposed to be on the same team. But after that ambush, I just didn't trust any of them anymore. And that's a really sad realization to have after 11 years together. The day of the follow-up meeting, I organized everything into folders. I made copies for everyone. Looking back, this was probably overkill, but I was running on anxiety and like 3 hours of sleep. I even practiced what I was going to say with Dr. Charlene because I was so nervous about messing up or getting emotional. She helped me focus on staying calm and sticking to facts rather than getting defensive. So Saturday rolls around, and Karen and her family showed up right on time, 2 p.m. They all walked in looking super confident. Karen wouldn't make eye contact with me at all. I tried to be polite and offered them drinks and snacks, which they refused again, rude, and suggested we sit in the living room where there was enough space for everyone. Robert immediately started asking if I had considered their concerns in a really condescending tone. I took a deep breath and said I had heard their perspective and had given it serious thought. Diane, Karen's mom, jumped in, saying acknowledgement wasn't enough and that they needed to see concrete actions from me. I noticed she kept referring to the house as Karen's home, which was really starting to piss me off. I asked if I could present my response to their concerns, and they reluctantly agreed. That's when I brought out the folders and started distributing them. Karen immediately looked nervous and asked what was in them. I explained they contained financial records, property documents, and transcripts of conversations between us that I thought would help clarify the situation. Kathy, Karen's sister, refused to even take her folder, saying something about how documents don't show emotional reality. I suggested they take some time to review the materials before we continued our discussion. Robert reluctantly opened his folder and started flipping through the documents. The room got really quiet as they reviewed everything. Diane gasped when she saw the credit card statements and looked at Karen with this shocked expression. Karen just stared at the floor, still avoiding eye contact with everyone. After a few minutes, Robert asked in a much different tone if these statements were accurate. I confirmed they were and directed their attention to the property deed and the letter from Billy explaining that the house was legally my separate property. That's when everything went crazy. Robert demanded to know why I never added Karen to the deed if I truly loved her. I explained that this was my family home for generations, and I was following my grandparents' wishes by keeping it in the family. Diane accused me of never truly considering Karen an equal partner in our marriage. I then showed them the second part of the folder, evidence of Karen's hidden purchases. I had found receipts for designer clothes, expensive purses, spa treatments, etc., all charged to credit cards I didn't even know existed. Karen started crying at this point and actually admitted to her family that she has a shopping problem. I was shocked she actually admitted it. Kathy tried to defend her, suggesting I somehow drove Karen to lie by being too controlling. That's when I played one of the recordings from earlier in the week, where Karen admitted to me that she had exaggerated and sometimes completely made up claims about me to her family because she was embarrassed about her debt and spending habits. Robert went completely silent. He was clearly furious, but I couldn't tell if he was more angry at Karen for lying or at me for exposing it. Diane tried to fix the situation by suggesting we all do family counseling together. I calmly stated my boundaries. Karen could return home if she agreed to financial counseling for her shopping issues and a post-nuptial agreement protecting my assets. Karen actually looked surprised that I was offering reconciliation at all. I guess she thought I was just going to divorce her after all this. Robert started to object to the post-nuptial agreement, but I firmly stated that this was between me and Karen as husband and wife. Kathy made one last attempt to paint me as the villain, saying something about how this proved I was financially controlling. I'd had enough at that point and asked them all to leave my house. I made it clear that Karen could stay if she wanted to talk, but her family needed to go. There was this really tense moment where no one moved, and then Robert stood up, told Karen to think carefully about her future, and led Diane and Kathy out. After they left, Karen and I had our first honest conversation in months. She admitted to having what she called a shopping addiction, her words, and manipulating both me and her family. She told me she'd been afraid of disappointing her status-conscious family by admitting to financial problems, so she'd made up stories about me being controlling to explain why she couldn't buy as much stuff as Kathy or her mom. We talked for hours, like until 3 a.m. She cried a lot. I cried a little too, not gonna lie. We came up with a tentative plan: separate finances, therapy for her shopping addiction, couples counseling, and yes, a post-nuptial agreement protecting my assets. She agreed to all of it, which honestly surprised me. I'm hopeful, but also, I don't know if I'll ever fully trust her again, you know? You can't just unhear your wife admitting she made up abuse allegations against you. That's some serious shit that doesn't just go away with an apology. Her family has been suspiciously quiet since Saturday. Kathy has sent Karen a few texts, which Karen showed me, but they're just generic, "How are you doing?" messages, nothing substantive. Robert and Diane haven't reached out at all as far as I know. I'm willing to work on rebuilding our marriage, but things have fundamentally changed. I'll never again allow myself to be manipulated or falsely accused like that, and I definitely won't be spending any holidays with her family anytime soon. So that's where things stand now. Karen's back home. We're sleeping in separate bedrooms for now. She has her first appointment with a shopping addiction specialist next week. We have our first couples counseling session scheduled for Thursday. I'm taking things one day at a time. There's still a lot of unresolved stuff. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust her again, I don't know if her shopping addiction can really be managed, and I definitely don't know if the relationship with her family can ever be repaired, or if I even want it to be. Edit. To everyone asking why I'm giving her another chance, I honestly don't know if I am for sure. Right now, I'm just trying to make decisions I won't regret later. If we go to counseling and I still feel like I can't trust her, then at least I'll know I tried everything before walking away from an 11-year relationship. Edit 2. Someone asked about our future financial setup. We're planning to keep completely separate accounts going forward. Karen will be responsible for paying down her own credit card debt. We'll have one joint account only for household expenses that we'll both contribute to proportionally based on income. Any future credit inquiries, loans, etc. will be done individually, not jointly. Edit 3. For those asking about my mental state, I'm doing okay. Not great, but okay. I'm continuing to see Dr. Charlene weekly, which helps. My friend Billy has been a great support too. The hardest part is probably going to bed each night in a different room than my wife and wondering if I'm making the right decisions. Edit 4. To clarify, since many people asked, yes, Karen admitted to her shopping addiction and lying to her family without me forcing or pressuring her. After her family left, she just kind of broke down and confessed everything. I think seeing all the evidence laid out like that made her realize she couldn't keep up the lies anymore. Edit 5. Thanks for all the supportive comments. A lot of you are saying I'm being too forgiving, and maybe you're right, but I guess I've been with her for so long that it's hard to just walk away without at least trying to work things out. Though I'm definitely not taking my lawyer friend's advice to trust but verify. From now on, it's just verify for me.